Hey guys, so very good morning. Today we are going to discuss the book of Joshua. Introduction, author and date. In the judgment of many scholars, Joshua was not written until the end of the period of the kings, some 800 years after the actual events, but there are significant reasons to question this conclusion and to place the time of composition much earlier. The earliest Jewish tradition, Talmud, claimed that Joshua wrote his own book except for the final section about his funeral, which is attributed to Eleazar, son of Aaron. The last verse must have been added by a later editor. On at least two occasions, the text reports writing at Joshua's command or by Joshua himself. We are told that when the tribes received their territories, Joshua instructed his men to make a survey of the land and write a description of it. Then in the last scene of the book, when Joshua led Israel in a renewal of the covenant with the Lord, it is said that he drew up decrees and laws. On another occasion, the narrator speaks as if he had been a participant in the event. He uses the pronouns we and us. Moreover, the author seems to be familiar with ancient names of cities such as the Jebusite city for Jerusalem, Kiryat Arba for Hebron, and Greater Sidon for what later became simply Sidon. And Tyre is never mentioned, probably because in Joshua's day it had not yet developed into a port of major importance. But if some features suggest an author of Joshua's own lifetime, others point to a writer of somewhat later period. The account of the long day when the sun stood still at Aijalon is substantiated by a quotation from another source, the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verse 13. This would hardly be natural for an eyewitness of the miracle who was writing shortly after it happened. Also, there are 12 instances where the praise until this day occurs. It seems safe to conclude that the book draws on early sources. It may date from the beginning of the monarchy. Something that Samuel may have had a hand in shaping or compiling the materials of the book, but in fact we are unsure who the final author or editor was. The life of Joshua. Joshua's remarkable life was filled with excitement, variety, success, and honor. He was known for his deep trust in God and as a man in whom he is the Spirit. As a youth, he lived through the bitter realities of slavery in Egypt, but he also witnessed the supernatural plagues and the miracle of Israel's escape from the army of the Egyptians. When the waters of the sea opened before them in the Sinai Peninsula, it was Joshua who led the troops of Israel to victory over the Amalekites. He alone was allowed to accompany Moses up the holy mountain where the tablets of the law were received. And it was he who stood watch at the temporary tent of meeting Moses set up before the tabernacles was erected. Joshua was elected to represent his own tribe of Ephraim when the 12 spies were sent into Canaan to look over the land. Only Joshua and Caleb, representing the tribe of Judah, were ready to follow God's will and take immediate possession of the land. The rest of the Israelites for the generations were condemned to die in the desert. Even Moses died short of the goal and told to turn everything ever to Joshua. God promised to guide and strengthen Joshua just as he had Moses. Joshua was God's chosen servant to bring Moses' work to completion and establish Israel in the promised land. To that special divine appointment, he was faithful as the leader of God's army, as the administrator of God's division of the land, and as God's spokesman for promoting Israel's covenant faithfulness. In all this, he was a striking Old Testament type foreshadowing of Christ. Historical setting. At the time of the Israelites' migration into Canaan, the superpowers of the ancient Near East were relatively weak. The Hittites had faded from the scene. Neither Babylon nor Egypt could maintain a standing military presence in Canaan, and the Assyrians would not send their armies until centuries later. As the tribes circled east of the Dead Sea. The Edomites refused the passes, so Israel bypassed them to the east. However, when Sihon and Og, two regional Amorite kings of Transjordan, tried to stop the Israelites, they were easily defeated and their lands occupied. Moab was forced to let Israel pass through her territory and camp in her plains. Also, the Midianites were dealt a severe blow. Biblical archaeologists call this period the Later Bronze Age, 1550 to 1200 BC. Today, thousands of artifacts give testimony to the richness of the Canaanite material culture, which was in many ways superior to that of the Israelites. When the ruins of the ancient kingdom of Ugarit were discovered at modern Ras Shamra on the northern coast of Syria, a wealth of new information came to light concerning the domestic, commercial, and religious life of the Canaanites. From a language close to Hebrew came to stories of ancient kings and gods that revealed their immoral behavior and cruelty. In addition, pagan temples, altars, tombs, and ritual vessels have been uncovered, throwing more light on the culture and customs of the people surrounding Israel. Excavations at the ancient sites of Megiddo, Beth-Shan and Gezer show how powerfully fortified these cities were and why they were not captured and occupied by Israel in Joshua's day. Many other fortified towns were taken, however, so that Israel became firmly established in the land as the dominant power. Apart from Jericho and Ai, Joshua is reported to have burned only Hazor. So, attempts to date these events by destruction levels in the mounds of Canaan's ancient cities are questionable undertaking. It must also be remembered that other groups were involved in campaigns in the region about this time, among whom were Egyptian rulers and the sea peoples, including the Philistines. There had also been much intercity warfare among the Canaanites, and afterward the period of the judges was marked by general turbulence. Much of the data from archaeology appears to support a date for Joshua's invasion, 1250 BC. This fits well with an exodus that would then have taken place 40 years earlier under the famous Ramesses II, who ruled from the Nile Delta at a city with the same name. When you look at Exodus chapter 1 verse 11, we can understand his name. It also places Joseph in Egypt in a favorable situation. 400 years before Ramesses II, the pharaohs were the Semitic Hyksos, who also ruled from the delta near the land of Goshen. On the other hand, a good case can be made for the traditional viewpoint that the invasion occurred in 1406 BC. The operation would have taken place under Amenhotep II after the death of his father Thutmose III, who is also known to have used the slave labor in his building projects. The earlier date is also fits better with the two numbers found, since it allows for an additional 150 years between Moses and the monarchy. When you look at Genesis introduction, author and date writing, Exodus, chronology, Judges, so that we can understand. Outlines. Total 24 chapters. The first chapter 1 to 5 we can see the entrance into the land. Under that we will discuss the exhortation to conquer, the reconnaissance of Jericho, the crossing of the Jordan, the consecration of Gilgal, and chapter 5 to 12 the conquest of the land and the initial battles. Under that we will discuss the victory at Jericho, the failure at Ai because Achan's sin, the victory at Ai, and the covenant renewed at Shechem, the campaign in the south, the treaty with the Gibeonites, and the long day of Joshua, chapter 10, and the southern cities conquered. Chapter 11, the campaign in the north, the defeated kings of Canaan, chapter 12, and chapter 13 to 21, the distribution of the land. Under that we will discuss the areas yet to be conquered, the land assigned by Moses to the tribes in Transjordan, the division of the land of Canaan, chapter 14 to 19. Under that we will see introduction, the town given to Caleb, the lands given to Judah and Joseph at Gilgal, the allotments for Benjamin, Simon, Zebulun, Issachar, Asher, Naphtali and Dan at Shiloh. The next one, the town given to Joshua, chapter 19. And chapter 20-21, the cities assigned to the Levites. Under that you will see the 6 cities of refuge, the 48 cities of the priest. And chapter 20-24, epilogue, tribal unity and loyalty to the Lord. The altar of witness by the Jordan, Joshua's farewell exhortation, the renewal of the covenant at Shechem, and the last one, 24th chapter, the death and burial of the Joshua and Eleazar. These are the 24 chapters in Joshua book. We are going to discuss chapter by chapter, verse by verse in our coming Bible study. God bless you. Thank you.